Here's the trade breakdown. The Mavs receive Grant Williams and 2 second-round picks. The Spurs receive Reggie Bullock and an unprotected Dallas pick swap in 2030. And the Celtics receive 2 second-round picks. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. Now to Blaine and Mickey on 104.5. The Zone.
Let's roll right off the top, Blaine and Mickey. And if you're going to the beach this summer, or maybe you've already been, what's the thing you take with you? You take the Phil Steele magazine, because you know he is the man when it comes to college football, and he is joining us right off the top of the show. Mr. Steele, fantastic to have you once again. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, a real pleasure. How are you guys doing this afternoon?
Oh, we're doing
We're
great,
doing
man. It's
fantastic.
sunny and you're on the show, so, man, we're excited. We're pumped up, man.
Yeah, we had to throw those the last host out of the show. He ran a little bit late, so apologize for starting a couple minutes late. We appreciate your patience. All right, I have to start with this. For anybody who reads your magazine, they know it is just overflowing with content. Absolutely amazing research by you and your team. So I will ask you this, and I couldn't think of a better word, so you tell me if there's a better one. What does it feel like every year to birth this thing?
I think you hit that right on the head. I mean, it takes us 7 months to put this thing out. We started at the end of November when some team seasons are complete, and it's in a 3 right-through process. The first right-through is a postseason right-through. The next one is a spring. And then the third is after I talked to the head coaches. I talked to over 120 of the 133 head coaches this year, going over the team with them. And I'm worried about every little detail of the magazine. We have 3 to 4 times the amount of information anybody else. And really, after that 7 months, I think you might have hit it right on the head. There's a great deal of relief. And I'm enjoying this time of year, guys. I get to cut it down to maybe working 50 hours a week, and I'm just talking on the radio all day long.
What's the farthest you've ever mailed one of these things?
We have done them overseas. Italy, there's some football places in Italy that like to get them, and I would say that Australia would be the farthest away.
All right, Phil Steele 042. You can find him there on Twitter. College Football Preview 2023 is out now. Barnes and Noble is one of the great places where you can find it, and we'll continue to talk about all the great places you can pick it up, but always great talking with Phil. Books A Million, right, Phil? That's the other place where you like to send people, Barnes and Noble and Books A Million. You can also buy it on Phil's website, but talking college football with him right now to start the show today.
Well, Phil, naturally, we're in SEC country, and the top of the mountaintop here is Rocky Top, and that's Josh Heupel. I'm interested to see where do you, I guess, rank him in all the coaches, not just in the SEC and in the country, but SEC is supposedly the best conference, so I'm sure that would put him at the top as well. So where would you say he ranks as a coach so far?
Yeah, I am very impressed with the job he's done. And you go back to, year one was good, getting them from 3-7 to 7-6 in a bowl game. Year two was remarkable. I mean, what he did with the offense. I kept checking my computer last year. My computer called for Tennessee to average 45 points per game last year. And I was like, can they really average 45? Tennessee, are you sure? And I checked my numbers. Yeah, that's what my computer kept spitting out. And what is he doing last year? 46.1, even topped that by a little bit last year. So I think he's doing a great job. He does have to replace his offensive coordinator from last year, but I think they're in good shape there. Joey Halsey's going to do a good job. And, of course, Heupel's very involved in the play calling there. So I think he's clearly, if you look at the SEC, I'm still going to take Nick Saban ahead of him. Mm-hmm. I'm still going to take Jimbo Fisher, who's got a national title, and some guy, Kirby Smart. Those would be the 3 head coaches I'd take ahead of him in the SEC right now.
Man, so it was, speaking of Kirby Smart, three-peat, or maybe they'll come up a little short. You think they can do it 3 years or without a new starting quarterback? They're going to have a new quarterback. I don't know much about the quarterback, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about him so Tennessee can make sure they can take him down.
Yeah, these 3-peats happen all the time, don't they?
You're right.
The last one. Last one was in the 1930s, the Minnesota
man.
Golden Gophers, for crying out loud. So it's been quite some time since it's happened. But I'll tell you what, if a team's going to do it, I like Georgia this year and their chances of doing it. You look at them on the defensive side of the ball. Last year when I went over the team with them, looking at the defense, they had lost like 3 or 4 first-round draft picks up front. They lost 8 draft picks overall. This year they only lost 1 first-round draft pick off the defensive line. They're actually a lot more experienced than where they've been last year. Same thing with the linebacking core. Experience was the main question last year. That experience no longer a problem. They lose less than they did last year, still have the best defense in the country. Offensively, Carson Beck is the new guy, but he was my number 6 rated quarterback out of high school. He's been in the system now for 2 full years. This is his 3rd year in the system. He's got great talent around him. My number 1 rated offensive line, number 4 set of receivers, number 6 set of running backs. And they have a schedule where they're going to be a double-digit favorite in every game up to the Tennessee matchup. So they're probably going to be 10-0. Carson Beck's going to have 10 starts under his belt. And I think you're looking at a Georgia team that will be favored in every game. And they are my pick to win it all this year. But as you know, in college football, we see some different things happen every year. Like last year, TCU getting to play in the national title game. But I think Georgia's got a really good shot at it this year.
Well, speaking of quarterback, Tennessee will have a new starting quarterback, Milton. I think a lot of people know who he is. He played a lot over his previous years, not just at Tennessee but at Michigan. I mean, do you think he can kind of continue to carry the torch by Hooker and and take him to the promised land?
Well, I tell you what, if you're an NFL scout, you are drooling over this guy. I mean, he is 6'5", 242 pounds. He could throw the football 90 yards. I mean, he's got everything you want out of a quarterback. He's playing in a great offensive system. And we saw last year after Hendon Hooker went down, 56-0 over Vanderbilt, 31-14 over Clemson. Not too shabby. And I think when you look at him, he's got the talent to do it this year. Now, my question is, last year, Hendon Hooker was just so damn precise. 70%, 27 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions on the year. Can Joe Milton do that for an entire season? That's the big bugaboo. But it is his 3rd year in the system, and I expect him to have a big year, especially throwing to players like Dante Thornton, the newcomer from Oregon. I think he's going to be an impact newcomer this year on the offensive side of the ball. He and Brew McCoy give him a great receiving core. Offensive line looks pretty solid. This is a very dangerous Tennessee team, and the only 2 games I have an underdog all year are at Alabama and then this home game against Georgia. If anybody's going to knock off Georgia this year in the regular season or in the East, it's going to be Tennessee.
Well, with that being said, you talked a little bit about Alabama there. Who is going to be their starting quarterback? Because, man, if they don't figure that out, man, even if you're Alabama, that's going to be tough sledding there.
Yeah, and at least Nick Saban's got some decent choices. I mean, Jalen Milroe's a guy that can hurt you with his legs. A little inconsistent throwing the ball, but he's got a cannon for an arm. Ty Simpson's a guy that was one of the top quarterbacks coming out of high school, my number 3 rated one. He did run a lot in high school, but he's more of a pocket passer. And then Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame. I was high on him last year until he got injured, but then he came back and won the bowl game, and he's got great arm strength. So I think they've got some great players to choose from. And the one thing that's sneaky with Nick Saban is they don't fare well when he's their number 1 preseason, like last year or the year before. They usually don't win the national titles. But when they're under the radar, like this year, when they have just 10 starters back and everybody's talking about Georgia, that's when Alabama's its most dangerous. So if a quarterback does emerge, I think they have a great shot. But I really have them favored in 11 of their 12 games. The only game I don't have them favored is at Texas A&M, and I've got that one rated as a toss-up.
Well, lastly for me is who is your surprise team in the SEC if you have one?
I'm going with the Texas A&M Aggies, coming off a 5-7 season last year. Everybody's down on them because of that, but last year they were number 124 on my experience chart. 124, one of the least experienced teams in college football. This year they're number 14, a huge jump of 110 marks up the ladder. And last year when I was going over the team with Coach Jimbo Fisher, he would say stuff like on the offensive line, Phil, we're going to be really good on the offensive line. next year. And, well, it is next year now. And whereas last year I'm thinking I might just pick A&M to win the West next year, and didn't do it this year because they're off a 5-7 year, but it wouldn't surprise me if they get it done. He's had some great recruiting classes. He's got 10 starters back on offense, 10 on defense, ton of talent across the board, and they get the big game against Alabama at home. Now, they do have to play Tennessee on the road. I've got them a dog in that game. They also play LSU on the road, but I think that you're going to see A&M, my number one most improved team in the country, and my number two surprise team this year.
There you have it, Phil Steele, College Football Preview Magazine release.
So you mentioned TCU, and then you just gave the rundown on Texas A&M. So do you think Texas A&M could be this year's TCU, where like people don't see them coming and they're one of the last teams standing?
Yeah, they absolutely have that possibility this year. And I do a surprise team list in the magazine every year. And for the surprise team list, I take the top 10 teams that I project in February, and we've had about a 95% success rate predicting the top 10 in the AP poll. And I throw them out because it's not a surprise if a team's in the top 10. But a team like TCU, which comes out of nowhere, would be a surprise. So my surprise team list are non-top 10 teams that I think have a shot at the playoff. I've got A&M number 2. I've got number 1, Wisconsin. And I know they're not in the SEC, but when you look at Wisconsin, Luke Fickell's a guy that at Cincinnati took a group of 5 team all the way into the playoff. He's got 10 starters back on offense. They're going to throw the football more with Tanner Mordecai, who comes over from SMU. And I was a little concerned about that because I'm like, if they're abandoning the run game, I don't like Wisconsin. But Coach Fickell told me they're not abandoning the run game. In fact, he feels they're going to open up more space for Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi to run behind that big offensive line. And defensively last year, they only had 3 starters back. This year, they have 8 starters back on defense. They also have a schedule tailor-made for success. Their road games are against Washington State, Purdue, Illinois, Indiana, and Minnesota, all in the winnable category. They get the big games, Iowa, Ohio State at home. I think if you're looking for a surprise, they were only 7-6 last year, and they got a first-year head coach. I've got Wisconsin as my number 1 surprise team, and A&M as number 2.
Wow. Okay. We know transfers are such a huge part of the game now. Biggest impact transfers that you foresee for this year?
The first one is I'm going to go to Notre Dame. And at Notre Dame last year, they started Tyler Buchner at the beginning of the year, and that was a good move. I like Tyler Buchner. I think he's a heck of a quarterback. But then he got injured, so they're playing with a backup quarterback all year long in Drew Pine. And Drew Pine is a fair to Midland quarterback. He's good. He's not great. He's not going to be one of the top quarterbacks for the draft or anything like that. So after playing with a backup quarterback last year, Notre Dame this year has Sam Hartman as the starting quarterback. Sam Hartman was one of the best quarterbacks in college football at Wake Forest for all those years, and he's got a great supporting cast around him. They're so deep in the backfield that they move Chris Tyree to slot receiver, and they still go 4 deep at running back. The offensive line's one of the best in the country. Marcus Freeman knows defense. He's got top 20 units in each unit, defensive line, linebacker, DB, and they're solid on special teams. I rate them number 6. Then when you look at their schedule this year, they get Ohio State at home. They get USC at home. The only game I have an underdog all year is at Clemson. I think Sam Hartman is your number 1 impact transfer player this year, and he's going to take Notre Dame, which the over-under win total on Notre Dame this year, guys, is only 8.5. I've got them favored in 11 games, or 10.5 games, I should say. I like Hartman to have a big impact this year.
Speaking with Phil Steele, you can follow him on Twitter at PhilSteele042. College football preview out right now. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, PhilSteele.com. So you can check it out there.
All right, Phil, a couple more Heisman, I guess, candidates. Who you got out there for the Heisman watch?
Well, everybody's talking about Caleb Williams, so my favorite take on that is, are you going to take Caleb Williams or are you going to take the field? I'm going to take the field in this one. Generally, when you're a returning Heisman player like Caleb Williams is, and you don't match last year's stats, people say you had a down year. And that's one of the reasons there's only been one repeat winner in Archie Griffin from Ohio State. Well, last year, Caleb Williams threw for 4,537 yards, 67% completions, with a 42-5 ratio. Now, I think he'll have a good year this year, but if his numbers are below that, people say, maybe he didn't have such a good year. USC does have to play Notre Dame on the road. They play Oregon on the road, and I think USC is going to have great success for him to get it back again. Players that could compete with them: Drake May of North Carolina, Jordan Travis of Florida State, Michael Penix of Washington, Bo Nix of Oregon. There's plenty of players out there, but if I'm going to take Caleb Williams or the field, I'm going to take the field this year and say he does not repeat as the Heisman winner.
Well, and who are your final four teams?
Well, for the Final Four, I went with three of the teams that pretty much everybody's picking: right. Georgia, Alabama, and Michigan. All of them, Michigan was in the playoff last year. Georgia, of course, won it all. And Alabama, I can't imagine Nick Saban missing the playoff 2 straight years, can you? But I looked at a lot of preseason top 10s this year, and they didn't even have Clemson in it. Florida State's going to be the preseason pick to win the ACC. But I did go a little bit out on a limb there with Clemson, and here's what I like about them. When I look at the Tigers this year, they look solid on offense. I like Cade Klubnik. I think he's going to step in and do well at QB. He's got tremendous running backs behind him with Shipley and Maffa. The offensive line is solid, so is the receiving core. But defensively, when I talked to Coach Sweeney this year, going over the team with them, he said that the defensive line doesn't have the star power of that 18 group. You guys remember 2018. They had, 3 or 4 first-round draft picks in that group. But this group is deeper in talent and experience than 2018. That makes me stand up and look at this defensive line. This is one of the best in the country, if not the best. They've got Barrett Carter and Trotter at linebacker, and the secondary is solid. And then when you factor in their schedule, their toughest 2 games are Notre Dame at home, Florida State at home. Clemson's lost a grand total of 2 home games the last 9 years. I don't think they lose in Death Valley, and I've got Clemson running the table and being one of those sneaky teams to make the playoff this year. So I've got Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, and Clemson.
Wow, good stuff.
Phil Steele, our guest. All right, before we let you go, we have to ask about them because they're right down the road from us. Vandy, Clark, Lee. What are you expecting from the Commodores this year?
Well, I'm not going to call for them to contend for the SEC East, that's for sure.
Fair enough.
I will say this: Clark Lee last year, what was the over/under win total for Vandy? 2.5.
2.5.
And they get to 5, and they almost had a shot there at the end of the year of actually getting to a bowl game, and they should start out the season well again. They get Hawaii, Alabama A&M early. They get UNLV on the road early. That's a winnable game. Even Wake Forest. Wake Forest loses Sam Hartman. They're a very inexperienced team. I could see them being in contention there. And they knocked off Kentucky last year. They get them at home this year. Missouri, I think, is a toss-up type of game. They could get that one, but they better get their wins early because look at those final 6 games for Vanderbilt: at Florida, home against Georgia, at Ole Miss, Auburn, at South Carolina, and at Tennessee. I love the job Clark Lee's doing. I told him I personally wouldn't take the Vanderbilt job. I think it's too tough competing in the SEC, but he says just bring it on. He's a guy that walked on at Vandy originally, and I think he's doing a tremendous job there.
All right, just on the way out, just because I'm curious, because you talk to everybody, you know everybody, is there a player you're most excited to watch this year?
I'm going to go back to the Heisman Trophy winner. I'm going to go with Caleb Williams just to see if he can repeat the magic. He just made some plays last year where, he was under pressure in the pocket, and all of a sudden a great play came out of it. Sort of excited to watch him play.
Phil, we appreciate it so much. We know you're busy. Thanks to you and Chris, who handles your booking. Always great talking with him, but people need to pick up the Phil Steele Preview Magazine. Take it and just read it from cover to cover. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, philsteele.com. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, Phil.
Hey, a lot of fun talking football with you guys today.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Ooh, what a way to start the show with the legend.
Yeah, that was a track meet.
That was a track. He just like bang, 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 bang. He goes. You want to sound off on any of that stuff that you heard with Phil Steele? College football season is right around the corner. Games actually in August next month. We'll talk about that. Got some Titan stuff to get to as well. Something that came up on the show yesterday that the Hitman found interesting that I wanted to get back into. We'll do all that. Phone lines open 615-737-1045. Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 1045 The Zone. Appreciate Phil Steele jumping on with us. I booked him weeks ago. That dude, you talk about birthing the magazine. He said 7 months it takes to make that thing. I mean, it only takes 9 months to make a baby. They 7 months to make the Phil Steele preview.
Well, he beat him to the punch then since he was birthing that magazine.
He birthed that rascal in 7 months.
I was wondering where he was going to go with that.
It is I couldn't think of another word. I mean, published just didn't seem right because I know he works on it a long time. And I've heard him say, well, I write it and then I write it again. And, then I call every coach, but then I call some again. And he explained it all when he was on with us just now. And and I'm sorry, ladies, because nothing compares to
no doubt.
What you goddesses do for us and bring us all into the world. I just couldn't think of a better word. So I couldn't think of another word. It's a long labor and process, and he births the magazine. But anyway, great magazine. It's available. So pick up your copy, and then you can, call and share with us what you think of it. Of all the things that he said, the older I get in sports, the more I am. You can tell me, and I'm not going to believe it. You have to prove it to me. Whatever it is. Oh, this guy's going to have a breakout year. Okay, well, you told me that, but I'll believe it when he has a breakout year, right? The older I get when it comes to sports, you have to prove it. Well, the A&M thing, him saying, "Oh no, they're my number 2 surprise team." His number 1 surprise team is Wisconsin. But he mentioned
the first year of a coach, though. That's wow. That's big.
Number 1 potential surprise team in Wisconsin. But A&M, and you brought this up. We were talking about A&M one day. You said, well, what's old Petrino going to do for him? Because that dude knows offense.
Oh, there's no question about it.
You say whatever you want about that guy and his motorcycle exploits and whatever, but the guy knows offense. I mean, we've all seen it, no matter what team you root for.
Is he going to give him the keys? He's going to give him the keys. That had to be agreed upon. We would assume, but we all know eventually the head coach, if he doesn't like something, he's going to just step his toe in there because he can, and then that could just ruin it all because I don't see their personalities mixed in very well at all. Like, man, I don't know how deep their relationship, and I'm hoping it's deep for it to work because they're underachieving. Sorry. They've underachieved, and he's done his winning percentage. If I'm making a guess, I bet it's less than Sumlin. His winning percentage.
We've talked about it.
To me, I would expect more. He's got a national title on his belt. I mean, man. So, man, he hasn't gotten it done in, Texas, who has a lot of talent, between Texas, Florida, California, Tennessee's moving up there in the ranks too. But, man, those prominent areas that it should be a no-brainer. He should have got it done. So, man, about 5 wins last year? Nah, that is absolutely horrible. If he wouldn't have had that big old contract, I think they would have made a move.
All right, I'm gonna get this. He is 39-21 at A&M. Jimbo,
which is what percentage?
I'm gonna have to get Jackson.
I'll do it.
Okay, all right. I don't want to math live because that never seems to go so well.
You asked, I don't even know how to work a calculator.
SEC 23-18. We should know this because we've talked about this before. So Jimbo, 39-21, 23-18, 1, 2, 3 in 5 years, and you're right. He was 5-7 last year.
Yeah, 53%.
So let's see, Kevin Sumlin.
I think he was somewhere around 60 something. Maybe he wasn't as. I think he was higher than 53%. I think I recall that. It may not have at the end, but his total wins and losses. So yeah, I think he's underachieved. I don't need to look at the stat. I just know he's come with a huge resume, and if you ask anybody else, truth serum, that are you happy with Jimbo Fisher? They got to say no. There's no way. No way. Have you figured it out yet?
So Kevin Sumlin was there 6 years. He was 51-26. And he's 25-23 in the SEC.
Oh, I think that's like 51% maybe.
So Jimbo is 23-18 in the SEC. So that percentage would have to be a little bit better.
Yeah, so it's pretty close though. I'm gonna say 51-53.
The year that got him fired,
more than that,
he was 7-5. That was the straw that broke.
Right, that's why you're talking about with Sumlin. Yeah, that's why I was like, oh.
11-2, 9-4, 8-5, 8-5, 8-5, 7-5. Bye.
Dang. Yeah. Well, their expectations was higher than to me. They haven't really gotten it done. They've
So
gotten worse.
Jimbo 9-4, 8-5, 9-1 during the COVID year. That was the year, and they just had to clear
Oh, I
that.
watched them play live too. I went to the UT game.
Oh, I
played them
remember
at
you
home.
doing that.
Mm-hmm.
8-4, 5-7. But you're not paying 8-4 and 5-7 money for Jimbo. I mean, you're not.
Dang.
And I've referenced this a bunch of times. Matt Stinchcomb, who's Don's friend, who they've worked together on SEC Network for years. We had him on once, and I asked him some kind of question like, who are we sleeping on, Stinch? And he said, I'll never forget this. He said, Texas A&M is building a Death Star. Because I laughed, a Star Wars reference. I said, oh, come on. He goes, they are spending so much money on everything. And he talked about, this is another thing I'll never forget. He said, most teams, they leave and go and they spend a night in the hotel and then they go, they walk through and they play the game. He said A&M is literally investing. They spend 2 nights wherever they go. They take all their tutors. They set up a full encampment when they go somewhere. And I thought, gosh, why would you even do that? And he said, it's just, they're just doing things at such a high level. And they've recruited at a high level. And he just said, man, this just feels like this thing is going to blow up. And they went 5-7 last year. And I'm not picking on them, but if you got a coach making that much money in Texas, Blaine, where you lived and played professional football in Texas.
It means everything. High school sports don't even look like high school football.
Tell people, preach. Tell people what high school stadiums look like in Texas.
Oh, man. It's 10,000 strong. Oh, it had 5. It'd be packed. And I mean, the level of what I saw, I was like, whoa, I don't know if I would have been playing. I was like, man, there's a whole bunch of 4 or 5-star dudes out here, man. So I was a little surprised there, but, I'm coming from a basketball state. So I was like, whoa, it's serious business. I mean, some of those stadiums look like Division 1 AA2 type stadiums.
And you're talking like turf fields, concrete bleachers, press boxes.
They were full steam ahead. They definitely look like they were small colleges, no doubt. They were serious business there, man.
So you're in that state, which is football crazy as anywhere, with so much talent. You got unlimited resources. And, sometimes you and I talk about, well, how does something happen on a college campus? And on a college campus, the thing that gets you fired is people over you have had enough of whatever your expletive is. They've had enough. So it's your attitude or you're losing or whatever it is. So you got all these board of trustees members. I don't know who's on the board of trustees for Texas A&M, but just think about that in Texas, a university like that, how powerful those people would be to be on the board of trustees for Texas A&M. So think about the circles. These people would be around people like Jerry Jones, and they would be around the most powerful people in Texas. And you got to go to all your business meetings, and you got to go to all your big-time person gatherings that those type of people would be walking into. And the first thing everybody says is, your football team won 5 games last year, dude.
Ooh,
And that's embarrassing.
He's a goner. If they don't win, I'm gonna go at least 8. He in trouble. Because guess what? Guess what happens next year? The Horns, they come in the SEC. We cannot have that. We need to make change now.
Yep.
And moving forward. Yeah, so they better come with it. So I'm we'll see if Phil Steele's right. See if they'll be the surprise team because they have the talent. I mean, they have, yo-yoing with the quarterback multiple times over the years. So that's kind of not been stable. So, we'll see. And then they always get beat by somebody you say they should win. They'll go beat like Alabama
right,
and then come back and lose to, who, that somebody's not even ranked.
Right.
Or, ranked late, bottom of the 25 or 23.
But somebody they got no business losing to at home.
Like at home. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You're like, huh? So that means he didn't have them ready to go.
Tyler says in the F&M Bank chat, exactly, Mickey, that's what we hear about A&M every year. They got to prove it for once. Talking about my statement. I got to see it. The 9-1 year where they just barely missed out on the playoff.
Yeah.
You're thinking, boy, maybe he finally flipped the switch. But they didn't. They didn't. They didn't flip the switch. And then last year you go 5-7. So unlimited resources. You add Petrino. I know, Saban's talked about their recruiting incentives, their NIL program, and it's been brought up about how they are finding money to compensate people, which you can do now. You can compensate, and there's NIL programs everywhere now. So they have played that game very well.
And his contract. What is his contract? It's some crazy number, like, I don't know, $100 million contract. I can't even remember now at this point in time, but is he making like $10 million a year? I can't remember what it was.
I mean, that's his deal.
I was like, man, that was a record at the time. I just helped, old Nicky Poo get a big bump.
So New Mexico at Texas A&M, that's game number 1. Then they go to Miami, which who knows what version of Miami you're getting, but it's still Miami. You're going there. Then they have UL Monroe, which is like the lowest budget in Division I football. But every 2 or 3 years, UL Monroe goes and beats somebody, then wins 2 games in the Sun Belt. I'm not saying they're going to beat A&M, but every year UL Monroe, like trick-or-treat level, scares the poo out of somebody. I don't think they're going to scare Texas A&M, but they do. So then they host Auburn, then at Arkansas, then host Alabama, then at Tennessee, then host South Carolina, then at Ole Miss, then host Mississippi State, then host Abilene Christian, and then finish the season at LSU. LSU favored by 10 right now in that one. I mean, hey, man, you think 8 keeps him his job?
I don't think so, man. I mean, all they got to do is say, hey, you saw what LSU did last year?
10 games, 10 wins. 1 to West.
Oh, it's not helping his cause.
No, it's not. Hey, man. This dude just showed up down there, and they had problems, and he won 10 games.
I was a little surprised by that, too.
No, I was, too.
I was like, whoa. Dang, he got him rolling. Even with the Southern accent.
Oh, gosh. The fakest Southern accent. Well,
Jackson gave him that recommendation to do that.
Jackson said, hey, just say my family.
My family. Go Tigers.
You can mock him.
All these dudes that cover college football said you can make fun of him all you want, his funny accent, but guess what he can do? Recruit and coach. Well, guess what he did? Recruited and coached.
He did.
And they lined up some transfers down there this year.
I got a new respect for
they got quarterbacks.
Kelly, man. I do.
Yeah. Him dancing, though, I never need to see that again in a video. No. All right, we'll dance our way to the next segment. Something came up about the Titans roster yesterday and the thought that people outside of Nashville have about the roster. Do we agree with those thoughts? We'll get into that next.
School's out, but Tennessee's summer season is definitely in session. So if you haven't taken care of it yet, Cool Ray can keep you cool with a $69 AC tune-up. Much like the maintenance on your car, you want to take care of your system before there's a larger issue at hand. And maybe you've already noticed that the AC unit is not acting right. Well, they have trusted certified technicians on standby ready to find the fix so you don't break a sweat. And this includes no service fee with any repair. And maybe things are past the point of repair for your AC unit. Well, Cool Ray has a solution for that too. Going on now, you can save up to $1,250 on a brand new Tempstar home comfort system. Plus, they boost the lifetime parts and labor warranty on new Tempstar home comfort systems, including a $0 in repair costs for the life of your system. And don't forget, Cool Ray isn't just there for your HVAC needs. They're protecting your entire home thanks to the Cool Ray electrical team, who can help you find the perfect whole home generator just in time for stormy weather. So schedule your next visit online at coolray.com. No phone call, no wait, no worries. You pick the date and time that works for you. That's coolray.com.
This is about as good a groove as there ever was made. I mean, guys, you ain't got to overthink it.
Oh,
It's
man.
pretty simple. Right bass line, little drum machine action, little synth, and you're just cooking. Mike, man, he didn't
Yeah, just
he didn't
chilling
overthink
right there,
it, dude.
Man. Just chilling right there. Man, you know, I just saw that you got your Arkansas State golf shirt today.
Yeah, I have about 100 of them.
No,
Just
the
figured
reason
I'd
why I
wear
bring
one.
that up because you
Oh,
reminded me.
no.
You reminded me.
Oh.
I saw in the ranking of the book of Phil Steele's, yours truly the best, red, black, and white team was ranked ahead of Ball State
Ooh.
in overall ranking. How many teams are there in the Division One now? Do you know?
130.
133.
It's 133 now. Okay.
Yeah. Guess where you thought I mean, guess where you think Arkansas State is?
Athlon has them at 110.
Yeah.
110.
Oh,
So I'm going to say
I thought they. Oh, I thought.
you seem a little disappointed by that. So I'll say 105.
Well, I thought Athlon had them. I did my research too on this. How are you confusing me? I thought they had them at 118, and Ball State was 119.
Oh, maybe that's right. Maybe my
I
brain.
don't know. Maybe, but what I'm getting at, both of our schools are way down the list. Out of 133, look, Big, it's okay. You can look up.
Hey, man.
I'm like,
Hey.
dang, this is horrible. Did you see it? Did you look it up?
I'll look it up right now.
But oh man, Ball State is. I'm like, oh man, they got us predicted to win 4 games.
Yeah, it's probably.
And I'm like,
about
I didn't even
same
want to
for-
look and see who they were against either. I didn't even want to know.
Well,
I was
so
like, God, that's not good. They won 5 last year. I was like, yeah.
so your man Butch Jones.
Well, but
Tennessee,
Jones is the coach of Arkansas
coach
State?
at Arkansas State.
No.
So he once a year, the head coach at Arkansas State gets to go and speak to the Little Rock Touchdown Club, which is essentially the Little Rock Touchdown Club. Like they'll have everybody goes and talks there. Announcers and former pros. It's not just people connected to the state of Arkansas. It's a pretty amazing group. And once a year, they grace the Arkansas State football coach with the ability to come and speak to their club. Well, when you speak to the Little Rock Touchdown Club, essentially you're speaking to the whole state. So they ask him, hey, it's, year, what is it? Is it year 3 for him there, I guess? And they said, well, it's year 3. And he said, no, it's actually year 2. And they said, what? He goes, well, the first year was year 0. So just say what it is. But they've won, I think, 3 games in 2 years under Butch.
Oh, yep. 118 and 119 for Ball State.
Oh, my
Rankings,
gosh.
the rest. Let me see where Tennessee. I think Tennessee was 17 or something.
It's between 15 and 20. I have it. I just haven't
like,
committed
whoa.
it to memory yet.
Yeah. I wasn't too. That's the bottom of the barrel. There are 133. Yep. UMass was last. Your school ULM was 131.
Okay. UMass is typically the worst Division I football program in the nation. ULM is typically the lowest budget, or right at the lowest budget, not just for football, but for their entire athletic department.
Okay.
It's almost impossible to go there and win in football. Like I know people who've been offered their first head coaching job by ULM and said, I don't want to do it because I'll tank my chances. I'll go and win. I'll win 8 games in 3 years, and nobody will ever hire me again. So that's a Herculean task to try to go there and be successful. But they have, they've won some upset games and beaten some people they weren't supposed to beat over the years, ULM. So they do as well as they can on a shoestring budget. And I'm talking like Vol fans think like the money that's in Danny White's like couch cushions in his office. Mm-hmm. That's their entire budget.
Well, they have Tennessee at 15.
15.
Yeah,
Okay.
15. Yeah, this is Athlon. Yeah, so they 15. Wisconsin is 17, but trying to look at all the SEC teams here, and naturally, Georgia's number 1, Alabama's 3, LSU is 6, and then you go all the way to Tennessee at 15. And A&M 20. Yeah. No other SEC. Oh, Ole Miss 21. Old Lane Train is still cooking.
The Lane Train to me may be, other than A&M, who we have talked about, the Lane Train to me may be the most interesting like what in the world are they going to do this year? To me, that is fascinating to see what the Lane Train does. I'm all about it. Now, can Georgia three-peat? What did Phil Steele tell us? Nobody's done it since the 30s, which I can't believe none of Bud
1931.
Okay, I can't believe none of Bud Wilkinson's Oklahoma teams in the 50s did it. I can't believe they didn't three-peat, but Phil Steele says it. I believe him. So almost 100 years since anybody's done it. So the odds are so strong against them.
Yeah, I am. I don't like dynasties. I know you do.
No,
but it's like, okay,
enough.
Even in Alabama when they were winning, I'm like, okay, it's time for another team.
Right.
And now I'm getting to that point. If they win this in 3, I'm like, with a new starting quarterback, it's like, everybody's in trouble. They can do this again and again and again because it's just going to keep growing and growing. So I just want to, see a little bit of change here somewhere along the way. But I don't think we are. Alabama can't decide on who their starting quarterback is. Tennessee, you think, are going to be in the hunt, but they got to get over Georgia.
Yep.
And they get to play them at home this time, right? Yeah, because they got smacked there in Georgia. So, Then you got LSU who, man, they surprise, they got the quarterback coming back. Man.
Well,
listen to him, about Clemson. I didn't realize Clemson and Florida State. Florida State is ranked 7th. I mean, what Norvell, man, he's doing well from Memphis. Oh, my gosh. He's doing that well in recruiting?
Well, the other team that's interesting to me,
All-Americans and everything.
And we'll get to this NFL stat, but we're getting a little more college discussion here. So I still got that stat in my pocket I wanted to ask you about. But in reading about Michigan,
oh yeah, Michigan.
Hey man, that's the last frontier for Harbaugh is play for a national championship because they got.
That's what he's waiting. They got him ranked preseason number 2.
Yep.
Man,
hey, they got Ohio State's number right now. That's the one that they got to win every year, and they've been winning it. And if you look at what they're returning, like their position groups are like 1 or 2 in everything in that conference. Like Athlon does that; they rank position groups, and I'm like, like Michigan is bringing back so much production everywhere.
Yeah.
And they've been on a roll again, beating their rival.
Yeah, they got USC too, I guess, because Caleb. But I'm still putting my money on the SEC. I don't care which one it is, but it's going to be one of them.
Well, this deal, I mean, we got a memo from our boss saying, hey, do you guys want to work the Monday that's Labor Day? And I'm like, huh? There's already college football games before. There's college football games in August. I know that every year, but my mind just can't wrap myself around. It's like, no, you can come in and talk about the UT game. I'm like, huh? Oh, yeah, August 31st.
Oh, yeah, I'm all in.
I mean, what's today? July 6th? I mean, it'll be August before you know it, and we'll have actual college football games that we're talking about. So,
yeah, because they're starting training camp, for colleges here in the next couple of weeks.
And you got a young somebody that's your son who's got to go to one of those camps, so you know all about this stuff.
Yeah, he'll be attending.
Dude, that dude's fast as lightning. Your son is so fast, he can turn out the lights and get in bed before it gets dark.
I wish. We better turn the lights out right here,
He wears a
man.
vest that tracks his speed. I know all about this stuff.
Yeah, man, I wish. We shall see.
All right, this came up yesterday on the show. The Titans roster. Where is it ranked? The Titans roster, the 53-man roster. It's 90-ish now, or close to 90. They can have 90. People do not think the Titans have a very good roster. Not at all. You gave a number yesterday. I found another.
Yeah, 28 was the one I found.
Yeah, I found one very similar. Let's get into that next. How bad is the Titans roster? How bad do we think it is? Because nationally, they think it's pretty dang bad. We'll discuss next. Hour 2 of Blaine and Mickey starts next.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Hunk. It's all about the Vols today, mainly because outside of the Sounds playing tonight at home at First Horizon, that's pretty much the only thing that's going on. The Vols picked up a transfer in the transfer portal, baseball-wise. Clemson's All-American Billy Amick is heading to Knoxville. He batted .413 for the Tigers last season, had 13 home runs and over 63 RBIs for the Tigers. The Celtics, they are sending Grant Williams to Dallas. And in part of that, Grant Williams is getting paid 4 years, $54 million in the sign and trade deal. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Vols, the flagship station for your Tennessee Titans. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Happy Thursday to you.
It's Thursday?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, man.
It seems like
Dang,
my phone
it's flying
says
by.
Thursday, July 6th.
I forgot we had that day off. Messed me up.
It basically made 2 Mondays this week. We had regular Monday, then we had a secondary Monday on Wednesday because we were off Tuesday.
That kind of reminded me how Fisher used to do us when we get our breaks. Get a long break and then come back on Monday, and then we'll give you Tuesday off. Oh, bro. Come on, man. Just make it this Monday. We just be back on Wednesday.
Or like when kids go back to school around here and they go on Friday.
Oh, that is the worst. Like, who set this up? What are they going to do on a day? On the last day. The kids are not focused at all. They're thinking about everything else but class.
If you are a Scholastic administrator, you can weigh in the F&M Bank chat or call 615-737-1045.
No, we had the administrators right here. We got the young read here. They can tell us what they thought about it, and maybe they have the answer for us. They can help us out.
I'll tell you what a teacher told me once.
Nah, he's not even listening.
I'll tell you what a teacher told me once.
What?
Because my kids were both griping about it, and we were, there getting
going to school on a Friday.
On a Friday to start school.
Just a Friday to start school.
And the teacher said, here's why we do it. And that's why I'm saying if you're a teacher
I know there's a logical reason, but I'm not buying it.
The teacher said, because you're supposed to register for school. But every year, like you register in the summertime, hey, my kids are coming to school. We just did ours. The teacher told me every year there are all these people who just show up that didn't register. So that gives them a weekend to plug them all in somewhere so then they can come back on Monday and then they launch from there. The Friday is for all the people who didn't tell them they were coming. And they're like, okay, so Jackson, okay. You're in the 8th grade. Okay. So
for the third time.
Yeah, we got to find a place to put Jackson. So that's what I was told. Certainly to be wrong, I'm sure. We got some administrators. Listen, I would love to know if that's the reason or was the teacher just making that up on the spot? Because I'll tell you, I've given people explanations like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to tell them something.
Oh, my friend Kent could have made you believe anything.
Yeah.
He could have told you anything and you would have believed him. So maybe that teacher just Kented me in honor of my friend Kent, who could tell you anything and you'd be like, oh, that sounds right.
I'm not buying it. Nothing getting done.
Are you buying the Titans as the 28th best roster in the NFL? That's per ESPN. I went back and looked. Pro Football Focus, they were much kinder, Blaine. They said 25th best roster in the NFL. Are you buying that?
20. It's hard not looking at every roster, but what kind of team? I think they're a middle of the road team. So to me, I'm still always going to be okay. Let's be as optimistic. Let's just say 21. And that's, I have no idea. I would say they're in the middle, somewhere between 15 and 18 if I was making a guess. And sometimes that can be bloated. What I think they are is because of the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And because I feel like they could play with anybody, even with the roster as is, without Hopkins or without MPS. I believe that. I think Vrabel does his best when the odds are down. Now, you can only survive so many odds down when you get a whole bunch of guys hurt. So, and 25, I'd be like, let me see the teams that are ahead of them. Just like when I saw the coaches, and Vrabel was like 13 or 14 or something. I'm like, well, who were all the coaches ahead of them? Like, how many of them? And, you start ramming off, and then, when you start questioning, it's like when they say, the head coach of the Dolphins, Daniels, or, all these young offensive guys, and then, even Frank Reich or whoever they may. I'm like, well, I don't know about that. So I'm trying to make sure I'm optimistic when I'm looking at it, not just from the Titans' blue lenses. And I think they're somewhere outside of in the middle of the road. But 25 still seems pretty deep for me. Like only 7 teams or worse?
Well, think about ESPN.
The total roster?
Only, let's say four teams. So here's ESPN has them as the 28th best roster. And I just look at it like, okay, let's look at the cream of the crop. King is arguably the best running back in the NFL. Byard's arguably the best safety. I mean, definitely put him in the top 3.
Well, I'm going to stop you not on Byard, but King. I don't think people think the King is the best running back. I think they think he's the best runner of running backs. But if you say, okay,
Christian McCaffrey.
Right. They're going to go down these guys who do multiple things. And then the King will be in the top 5, but he won't be number 1.
Okay, so top 5 running back.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3 safety and Byard. Maybe 2 in the top 10. Maybe Hooker. At least top 12.
Oh, I would say Byard's top 5.
Okay.
Duo, they should be up the top.
Right up at the top.
Yeah.
Big Jeff. He's one of the best at his position.
He's in top 3. Then who else?
A lot of questions at corner. Questions at inside linebacker. The offensive line is only questions. Questions at receiver.
Well, okay. I mean, when you start breaking it down that way, we'll never be on the right. But as a unit, like Autry's not going to be on the board. But when you go watch Autry play, you go, he's a factor.
Oh, I love Autry.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a factor. You can talk about his age or his bad knees and all this other stuff. But when he goes out there, he balls. As well as, Harold Landry's coming off an injury. And then now they've kind of brought in the key. But all the, kind of journeyman type D linemen, I think, are underrated. One guy just got a big contract. He was sitting at home for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think they have a knack for finding a good D lineman in the rotation. That's probably one of Vrabel's best deals. And I think the O-line, they gotten better with the depth this coming season just in case something like this happens again. And Tannehill, people can say what they want to say. And, he didn't, finish the season. He was injured. But, man, I would take Tannehill over a lot of quarterbacks. Like, still today, I know people still are mad at him, just like I am, for throwing those 3 picks versus the Bengals, because I think that was the year. But, man, he's still a really good quarterback. I put him in the same class as Kirk Cousins, and everybody else is right there.
Mm-hmm. You want to know who's worse per ESPN roster than the Titans?
There should be a whole bunch of teams, but
Arizona, 32. Everybody has them at 32.
Come on.
That's the one team that Florio said Patrick Mahomes couldn't take to the Super Bowl.
Now, what's really hurting the Titans is Panda and then Caleb Farley not panning out. That's what's killing the roster to me. I know there was other bad moves, but you can't miss on 2 first-round picks like that.
What did you say, too? As soon as we realized Panda wasn't going to work out, what did you say? The only thing they can't do here is now start chasing
him.
And what have they done? They keep drafting. They drafted Radens. Yeah. Guess what?
That didn't work out either.
For whatever reason. Hey, man, that's not worked out. Well, guess what? NPF, that's currently not working out.
Oh, man.
That's a first-rounder, a second-rounder, a third-rounder on tackles. And when this season starts, none of them will be playing for this team. None of them. Panda's off in the universe somewhere.
See, my neck was doing real good before I came in here, and now I can't even turn to the right. Yeah, man. I mean, you just made my trap oh, man. That is absolutely horrible. Okay. That's why John Robbins is not here. That is it. People can talk about the A.J. Brown and all that, but I believe it's that. The roster just wasn't where it needs to be. I still don't think it's 28.
You want to know who 31 is? The Rams. 31.
Okay.
Per ESPN. 30. This is not going to surprise anybody. Indianapolis.
Oh, I don't know.
Weakest unit, secondary, it says for them. Strongest unit, defensive tackle. That sounds like the Titans.
Oh, not the O-line, huh?
X Factor, Quentin Nelson. So that's somebody on the O-line. And then I know who 29 is without even looking. It's the Texans. I might have had the Texans back there closer to 31. Actually, the Cardinals.
And so who is right there ahead of the Titans, like from 20 down?
So 3 AFC South teams in a row. 28, 29.
They just
30.
disrespecting the whole conference, right?
Oh, yeah.
But don't nobody want to play them, though.
27 is the Buccaneers. Do the Buccaneers have a better roster than the Titans?
I don't think so. Not when I watched them go head-to-head at practice when they were practicing in training camp.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and Brady's not walking through that door.
No.
26 Atlanta Falcons. Or I'm sorry, the Atlanta Tennessee
Right,
Falcons.
they keep picking up our players that we cut, so no.
Literally, it's all second
Not
hand
yet.
Titans.
Now, that running back, boy, ooh, I can't wait to see him. As a matter of fact, Arthur Smith, you can love him, you can hate him, but he's on the hot seat. You talk to the people in Atlanta, it's now's the time. And I don't know if that's fair or not, but that's what they thinking.
Nobody's got any patience anymore. There's too much money.
It's 3 years, yeah.
It's too much money. When you're paying people what they're making now, patience got flushed down the toilet. So the Atlanta Tennessee Falcons are 26 with all the Titan castaways. So think about it. The Titans roster is worse than the Falcons, and the Falcons roster is made of people who the Titans didn't want anymore.
They didn't want him.
So
That makes sense to me.
25 Carolina Panthers.
Only,
Says their strongest unit on the team is off-ball linebacker. Shaq Thompson, the Shaq of the Mac Thompson.
oh, well, that's cool, but yeah, that's not.
The X Factor
It's
is
not wowing me.
Jonathan Mingo.
Well, he just got there.
Yeah.
Just like the quarterback.
24, Washington Commandskins, the 24th best roster in the NFL.
They got a couple D linemen.
They get after your
They
butt.
got the
Yeah, that's their strongest
receiver
unit.
from my high school.
But they got Thurston Howell III from Gilligan's Island playing quarterback this year. That's not a worse roster than the Titans. I'll give them D-line. But the Titans' D-line is not theirs, but it's still a great D-line.
Yeah.
So they're almost matching them on the D-line. But Ryan Tannehill's
I'm not buying that one either.
okay, I'm not buying that.
And they beat him head to head. So I was coaching.
23 Green Bay Packers. Were you on that?
Ooh. Well, without Aaron Rodgers, it depends on what love looks like. But they do have some pieces that I kind of like. So I could see them.
Well, for Titans fans who look at the Titans wide receiver room and say, boy, where's the experience? Listen to this nugget about the Packers.
Now, they all young, right?
Green Bay's projected top 7 wide receivers and top 2 tight ends. That's 9 people were all drafted in 2022 or 2023.
Yeah, that's why Aaron
That
Rodgers
sounds a lot
was-
like Burks and Jig and Phillips. It sounds a lot like but not all of them.
Yeah, they got that one day I loved. I wanted him to get. You remember? You liked him to speed. What was that kid from North Dakota State or something? What? Man, what was it? I think he's number 9. I think he got a deep ball versus the Titans too. But he got to learn how to run more than just deep balls.
Oh,
Watson.
Well, Christian Watson.
Yeah, Watson is his name. I knew it hit me. I wanted the Titans to draft him. Mm-hmm. That dude's a burner.
6'4", 208, and runs.
They can fly.
Yeah, why would they
just
roll the
imagine-
dice, play the board? Why
Yeah,
would
just imagine the 5'10" guy out there. You looking at that guy running, you go, uh-oh. It's going to be a long day, man. We better get ready. Mm-hmm.
22, I'll stop here. 22 Chicago Bears.
Who was their offensive line? I know they
Bears.
drafted some guy, but I know they got Fields. I get it. Okay. That receiver unit, I know they traded, and I like my one guy from Tulane, but other than that, I can't even tell you. I know they got a linebacker for the deal. Man, I don't know. I got to start looking apples to apples. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, that's
The Bears, when was the last time they made the playoffs?
Coach Mack was probably there.
I'm like, man, come on. No, Cutler was there.
There's still been a minute, though. Yeah, and that's ESPN. They have the Titans roster ranked 28th. PFF has the Titans 25th. PFF says the Titans' biggest strength is the ground game. And then this you want to hear some craziness, but their biggest weakness is the O-line. You need one to have the other.
Oh, well, what they're saying is they can run the football, but they're not good at pass protection.
Boy. It also says, here's maybe the weirdest thing. PFF, with the 25th ranked roster, which goes back to, and we can get into this tomorrow, where Mike Vrabel is ranked on some of these lists. They say they've got the 25th best roster, but they like them to win more than 7.5 games.
So it goes back to Vrabel.
It goes back to coaching. Yeah.
Because, and it shows you don't have to have the most talented roster to win games. If you can execute what you need to do just to get by. If that's the case, then they've been overachieving for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, they have been.
Regardless, even with no line last year and all the injuries the year before that.
Well, last year was, and we got to go because we're going to talk some dogs next with Jordan Hill of Go Dogs 247. Last year was a failure for Tannehill. They about got him killed. And
they did. He didn't play any more games.
And and then the King got 1,500 yards. I saw a graphic today, led the league in broken tackles. And we had Eric Eager on last week, and he said, Derrick Henry had 1,200 yards after contact last year. He said that's 1,200 yards after contact last year.
Yeah, they throw a little bit different route combinations and open up the offense a little bit. Boy, if he get to rolling, nobody's going to want to tackle him.
Mm-mm.
Boy, that's a decision you have to make early in the week.
Mm.
I'm trying to tell you. You better get ready. You better hey, man, when he come through here, I got to know that win, lose, or draw, I got to bring it. Yeah.
And then just whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win.
All right. Well, sometimes we win. Jordan Hill, who covers the Georgia Dogs. We're going to start our preview of Vols opponents, and we will start with Georgia. Yep, college football is right around the corner. Let's talk some three-peat next with Jordan Hill.
Who, Pete? For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for your European car repair needs now for 24 years. And we've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we're now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn in his backyard with a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX. Or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
Blaine and Mickey, we're good. Really, really good. We're not. I don't know. Maybe we're bad. Like Michael
Antoine
Jackson was
Smith,
bad.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell you who's not been bad the last 2 years is Georgia. They won the whole thing. And so
Oh, they bad.
the bad, like bad and bad. Jordan Hill covers those bad dogs. Or at Dogs247. He is at Jordan Davis Hill. He joins us now. Jordan, man, thank you for the time. Appreciate it, man. How in the world are you doing?
Hey, doing great. And, the Countdown's on tour up there where you guys are up in Nashville. Won't be long before we are up there for media days. And that's sort of the beginning of the end of the off season. That's when you know football's right around the corner.
How excited are you as a hunker down, you Harry Dogs reporter, to not have to go spend a week in, or at least some days in a mall in Birmingham to come unleash your talents in Nashville for a few days?
I want to see you doing a pedal tavern,
Yeah,
too.
not that I dislike
the
the mall in Birmingham, but it is a change of scenery.
Oh, definitely. It's nice. Hey, the only request I have is that they don't keep the room that we're in the temperature of a meat locker, because at the Winfrey, it feels like it's 40 degrees. If they do that, everything else is just icing on the cake.
Oh, okay.
Well, it'll be icing on the windshield, man. You probably need to bring a sweater. I'll just tell you, it's hot in Nashville, so they'll try to have it cold in there. We were talking about Georgia one day, and I brought this up, and I wonder how much Dog fans think of this, because like A&M fans, it's like, well, let's get rid of Kevin Sumlin. He's just not getting it done. And it's the whole, well, who you going to get better? Well, you get Jimbo, and it's not better. Matter of fact, it's kind of trending worse now. Georgia is the one school that said, boy, things are really, really great. Let's get rid of that guy and see if things can go all the way to the top level. And son of a gun, it worked for Georgia. That almost never works.
Yeah, and the thing that's funny about it now is go look back to Kirby Smart's first season. It didn't necessarily look like it was going to work.
Boy,
They lose to Vanderbilt and a homecoming. They almost lose to Nicholls State. I think they were like maybe a 45 or a 55 point favorite. So it really is funny when you look at coaches and their careers. I mean, things one way or the other, turn differently, and you could be talking about a very different situation. It's been fun this week. On our website, we've done a bracket of the biggest moments since Kirby became the head coach. And one that I don't think is going to wind up making it out of its regional, but I think probably should have gotten more votes, was after that first year, he had Sony Michel, he had Nick Chubb, he had Lorenzo Carter, and he had Davin Bellamy all decide to come back for 2017. If really any combination of those four guys don't come back, I feel pretty confident in saying Georgia doesn't play for that national title against Alabama that year. So, I mean, it is funny when you look at, they did take a big gamble in firing Mark Richt. I mean, they clearly weren't to the caliber that Alabama was, and that year that they fired Richt, Florida beat them, I think it was 27-3. But a lot of fan bases would be just as content with sticking with a guy like Richt, planning on probably more years than not winning 10 games a season, but Georgia felt like it was a move they had to make, that they had the potential to get a lot better. They had the homegrown guy in Kirby Smart, the alum, and it wasn't always easy. That first year, like I said, was pretty rocky, but in short order, he got things in great shape, and now you're having the conversation where they are looked at as a favorite to go back to back to back.
Yeah, which we found out hasn't happened since the 30s from our good buddy Phil Steele earlier today. So you're talking about almost 100 years of history that they have a chance to erase. Jordan Hill, our guest, covers the Georgia Bulldogs for @Dogs247. He is at Jordan Davis Hill on Twitter. Go ahead and hit that follow button for him.
Well, Jordan, do you see any complacency, not from the coaching staff, but potentially by young men who at some point hopefully decide that that's not the case, but eventually, they're human too?
I don't think so. And I think the biggest thing is something that Kirby and those guys, really the players, echoed during spring practice when we got to talk to those guys. And they said that something that Kirby has talked a lot about, it's sort of a catchphrase among the many he's come up with, is inherited, not earned. There are a few guys who played on last year's team, played big roles. I think about Cedric Van Pran, the center. You think about Jamon Dumas-Johnson and Smile Munn, the two inside linebackers, Kamari Lassiter, one of the corners. A lot of guys that played really big roles, obviously Brock Bowers as well at tight end and Ladd McConkey at receiver. But a lot of guys that are going to be stepping up and playing big roles in 2023 were either reserves or didn't play a whole lot at all. in 2022. And the rallying cry with these guys is the fact that, what happened these last 2 years, a lot of those guys didn't have a whole lot of say in it. Maybe they were more about performing on the scout team and getting guys ready that way. But a lot of those in-game reps, a lot of those big plays, a lot of those touchdowns came from teammates who are now in the NFL. And Kirby has made it clear to the players that, if they're going to win again, it's going to be on the backs of these guys who are going to be playing much bigger roles. And from everything we've heard, and I'm by no means surprised by this, people have bought into this. They know that this group hasn't earned anything. And I think they're going to be hungry to prove to everybody that just because they lost, 10 guys who got drafted last April, that they're ready to go out there and go chase another title.
I don't know if it's in the same boat, but what makes Kirby Smart so special as a coach?
Well, I think he's got that rare ability to relate to these guys, to build that trust. And also he's just a really smart X's and O's guy. He's one of those defensive minds that when you look at the 21st century in college football, you would argue is one of the best, along with, Will Muschamp, a guy he's got just so happens to have on staff, and obviously worked a long time with Nick Saban, who, we know is clearly the most successful college football coach with all the championships he's had over the years. I think Kirby does a very good job of relating to his players, and it was really interesting this offseason. He made an appearance on a podcast called The Growth Project, and Kirby was really honest and kind of forthcoming about, we talked about that first season when things didn't go well, how willing he was to adjust the way he did things and to take a step back and say, okay, this isn't working. And, we've heard from some of his assistants the last few years, that he is not the kind of person that's going to turn down an idea. And he's not the kind of person that is, I'm the head coach and I have final say. Now, ultimately he does have final say, but he's going to listen to recruiting staffers. He's going to listen to position coaches. He's going to listen to his coordinators. He has been very willing to adapt, and I don't think he really was early on. And I think that he learned the hard way that there was things that could be done better, and that he was capable of learning from the people around him. I think that has served Kirby really, really well. And a lot of people in those kind of situations, not everybody follows through on that. They want to have say, and they want their fingerprints on what is working. I think Kirby has learned the different ways that you can use to motivate kids, to get kids to buy in. And I think you do that, and then you recruit at the level that Georgia has, typically bringing in top 3 classes pretty much at worst year after year. When you're able to get guys who are willing to put in the work and obviously have that kind of talent, it's a recipe for success, and it's certainly been very, very successful in Athens.
No doubt about it. With the X's and O's, as you mentioned, and now with the recruiting, has he ever given? I know winning cures all, but I mean, is he giving any secrets like some of his recruiting tips or anything?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and I think it's really interesting, especially in the days of NIL now, when he has talked about it, he doesn't, go into full detail, but he's made it clear that NIL is not sort of the driving force with their recruiting pitches. And the biggest thing that he has when it comes to recruiting and what he wants to sell players on is like, look, come to Georgia, we will get you where you want to go. We're going to be very successful here, and we're going to send you off to the NFL. And, I think early on that was something that he was able to sell based on his experience at Alabama. But those first few years, his first year at Georgia, they had all of one player drafted. That was Isaiah McKenzie. But then once you have the success these past few years and, routinely putting multiple guys going in the first round of the draft, all of a sudden you can sort of show that, proof of concept to players. And I think that has really stood out to players. And I think that, I'm working through a series of stories on the freshmen that are coming in and, hearing about assistant coaches who shoot these guys straight and say, hey, we really like you. And, talking about 5 stars, specifically I'm thinking about Raylan Wilson, who was one of the most coveted inside linebackers in the country. And his high school coach was telling me, Glenn Schumann obviously really liked him, but after a practice, he told Raylan, hey, you're good, but here's 5 things that you can do better. I think that level of being honest with players, I think that does really resonate, especially with the right type of kids who understand that they're good, but that they want to maximize their ability, maximize their potential. I think when you have those things, it sets up really well, and it's why we see more often than not when Georgia gets some of those top-rated recruits, they come into Athens, and it may not happen right away, but they develop and ultimately wind up having pretty successful careers.
Man, we're with Jordan D. Hill, Dogs 247 beat writer. I got to ask you this because I was so enamored being a former NFL player and seeing this kid after his freshman year saying, man, this guy should be able to go into the draft. And that is Brock Bowers. I mean, I think he's the best college tight end in NCAA history. I could be extreme. You're covering him. What are your thoughts on Brock Bowers?
Yeah, he's outstanding. It's kind of funny, to think about his freshman year, and there were a lot of people, and I think rightfully so, upset that he didn't take home the Mackey Award as the nation's top tight end, and came through with it last year. I'm fascinated to see what his role looks like this year. You think about the fact they're going to be breaking in a new quarterback, either Carson Beck or Brock Vandagriff, and how much you might see them rely on number 19 and say, okay, we got to get him the ball a lot. Saying that, now their receiving core is probably as deep as it's been since Kirby Smart's been there. They add Dominic Lovett from Missouri. They add Ra Thomas from Mississippi State. And they also signed 3 high school guys that are really, really talented. You get those guys in there, then you get Lab McConkey, like we talked about earlier. Arian Smith, who had the big touchdown in the Peach Bowl, that if he doesn't make that 75-yard catch, maybe the Buckeyes wind up playing in the national title game. So they are extremely, extremely deep at receiver. Just fascinating to see how much they get Brock the ball, if they feel like they need to feed him for, just knowing he's reliable and knowing that they can get a new starting quarterback broken in that way, or if they say, look, we can kind of take what we would perceive to be a load off of Brock Bowers and get the guy, get the ball to these receivers. I have no doubt that Brock's going to play a big role, but what that looks like statistically and just how much they're throwing his way really, really interests me going into 2023.
Yes, on Twitter, Jordan D. Hill, Dog 247 beat writer.
How ready is, you're talking about these offensive weapons, how ready is Mike Bobo to run this offensive machine? I would say again there.
Again.
Yeah. The more things change, the more they stay the same sometimes. I think he is really ready, and I think something that people can't overlook is that he was on staff last year as an offensive analyst. And based on everything that was told to us, Todd Monken, we got to talk to him during bowl prep, and he lauded Mike Bobo and said, look, this is a guy with a whole lot of experience as an SEC offensive coordinator, and he's taken on roles that you would expect a grad assistant to do, drawing up plays and things like that. And based on everything we've heard, and I'll be really interested when we get a chance to talk to Mike during fall camp, I do think that kind of year of, he was still working, but sort of a reset after things didn't go well as Auburn's offensive coordinator. I think that probably did him well. And I think, too, it allowed him to get caught up to speed on how Georgia runs its offense. It's been emphasized over and over that it's really more Mike adjusting to what has been in place for Georgia. It's not like Mike is coming in and saying, all right, this is my offense and this is how we're going to run it. I think Mike has learned a bit, and there's plenty that he's put, what was said during spring, his spin or his twist on things. But I think that he is going to succeed. He's got a whole lot of talent. I thought it was interesting talking to some of his former players like David Andrews, who, those teams were really talented in the late 2010s. But he said, look, those teams compared to what Mike's working with now, I mean, there's so much more talent that he gets to work with. And, I think it's easy to forget, as successful as Georgia has been on offense the last few years, they never topped the record of Mike's final offense at Georgia 2014. They still posted the most points per game of any Georgia team in program history. So Mike had a whole lot of success while he was in Athens the first time around. And there will be some adjustments, which I think would have happened even if Tom Monken would have been back for another year. But I'm expecting the offense to be very successful. And it's going to be really interesting to see Mike work with these quarterbacks and see as they get settled in and try to have another successful season.
How do you see the quarterback competition playing out?
I think it's going to be Carson Beck. He's the guy that came out of the spring looking the part. Played really, really well at G-Day, and really, for what you would consider a spring game, I would imagine, was pretty high stakes, just knowing that everybody was watching. Brock Vandagriff, I do think that they're going to give him a chance in fall camp. He didn't play quite as well at G-Day, had an interception, had a few sacks that he took in that scrimmage. But I do think that it's not quite decided. I think that they are going to let those guys go through fall camp. And the thing that it's going to be really interesting when it comes to the start of the season, Georgia's got an opportunity if they do not feel like either quarterback has won this job. They can play multiple quarterbacks with the way the schedule sets up. You start with UT Martin. You play Ball State. You do have South Carolina in week 3, though that is at home. And then you have UAB. So if you really feel like neither one of these quarterbacks has separated himself from the other, you can get different guys on the field. But just based on what we've seen, what we've heard, I think Carson Beck is going to win this job. But I don't think it's quite locked up. He's going to have to go in and perform really well in fall camp and try to build off of what was a very productive spring.
Hanging out with Jordan Hill at Jordan Davis Hill, covering the Georgia Bulldogs for Dogs 247.
Well, let's ask the the big question in the room, and that is three-peat. What do you think the odds are that happens? Hasn't been done since I think since the 30s, right? 1930s or so. So
yeah, a lot of Googling of the Minnesota Golden Gophers
right
since January. So I've done a lot of research on those guys. I think they've got a really good chance. I think that their schedule, it's sort of funny looking at it. On one hand, I think it sets up well for it because it is a pretty manageable schedule. I do think probably the toughest game is at Tennessee. But on the other hand, you don't have a whole lot of margin for error. If you get upset, you can't really lean on your schedule to, say, try to make the playoff. But I think they've got a really good chance. To me, the biggest question is obviously quarterback, running back, where they've had a lot of injuries in the spring and need some of those guys to get healthy coming back for once we get into fall camp. And then really inside linebacker, where Smile Munden was banged up. They've got a lot of talent behind him, but it sounds like he may miss some time in the season. They need someone to step up alongside Jamon Dumas-Johnson. I think they've got a very, very good shot at going undefeated during the regular season, which would probably lock them in, you would think, into the 14 playoff. But if that happens, I think that SEC championship game is going to be very, very highly anticipated. I'm of the belief we're going to see Alabama back there. I know a lot of people are still really high on LSU after that year 1 with Brian Kelly, but I think this last year of the 14 playoff, I think there's going to be multiple SEC teams in that hunt going into November. But I think Georgia's set up well to be one of those teams. And as long as they take care of business in the regular season, I do think we'll see them in the playoff once again.
Jordan D. Hill.
Jordan, fantastic stuff, man. Literally, it's July. We got real college football games next month. It'll be here before we all know it.
Yeah, the countdown is on, and thank God for that.
Yes, sir. Well, hopefully we'll bump into you and get to talk to you at SEC Media Days here in Nashville in a week or so.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd appreciate it.
Would love to catch up again then and put a microphone in front of you. Jordan Hill at Jordan Davis Hill, Dogs 247. Thanks for the time today.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Always good catching up with some SEC brothers and sisters out there. So, three-peat in the cards?
Man, I want to know what those rings look like. Man.
They'd be so big, you need 2 hands
speak.
to hold them. All right, speaking of numbers, just noticed something earlier on Twitter today about Derrick Henry, a magic number that he has a chance to reach this year.
Ooh.
Now, I'm going to tweet this out on @Blaine and Mickey. You can go there. You can answer this question, but I'll ask the gallery here if they think Derrick Henry can hit a certain number this year at least one more time. I'll explain it all next.
Yep.
Yes. Well, let's talk to you about my friends at PAI. We Grow Hair, right? You know them as both, but they got a website, wegrowhair.com. And anytime people ask me about the good folks at PAI, now known as We Grow Hair, my friend JT, he always used to say they should just call themselves that. It's the website, wegrowhair.com. And it's exactly what they do. They grow hair on you or somebody else who needs it. A lot of you who are experiencing this hair loss journey, maybe your thing is like, I'm just going to buy a hat. Or guys, you get your hair cut shorter and shorter. And then one day you go to the barber and you just say, go ahead and buzz it. We're at the end of the line here. What if you didn't do that? What if you went and you started the line again? Well, you can do that. You can actually go and see the great team at We Grow Hair. You can do a free consultation, and they'll take some pictures, and they'll say, look, here's where you are, and here's how you got here, and here's how we fix it. And there's all different roads that you can go down to get the hair back that you've lost and keep the hair that you have, but can't do anything if you don't call them. Permanent, natural results from the company you can trust for over 26 years. PAI Medical Group, wegrowhair.com. Don't wait. Call now, 615-376-6010.
Come on, Mickey. Come on, start singing out here.
I don't think it's got any words in it.
Oh, I don't know the words.
I don't think those words are in it.
I know they're definitely not the words, but that's how it sounds. To me.
Benny and the Jets, man. Oh,
Benny and the
Jackson,
Jets.
he digs
But I
up,
know how it
digs
starts
up the
off.
old school stuff for me.
Yeah, that's hard. That's good, man. Bring
So-
back great memories, man. I might have been, dancing in my mom's belly.
You might have been actually about the time this one dropped. It might have been going on for sure. Derrick Henry. So in the regular season, what day do we get that list of stuff from the Titans? Is it on Wednesdays? We get an email
All
from
these records he broke
we get an email from Robbie Bourne.
for the
and,
NFL and the
and
Titans.
I usually call it feats of Derrick Henry because you get this game notes or supplemental notes. That's what it's called, supplemental notes. Yeah, maybe you get them on Thursday. So Robbie Bourne, who's just the Titans media relations guy for years and years and years, he sends us this email, he and his great crew. And it'll have like, Ryan Tannehill has 11 touchdown passes against the Saints, second most of any team in his career. It's just stuff like that. And then it'll say, Danico Autry needs a half a sack to equal his career high for the month of October. It's things like that where you're like, oh, okay, we can talk about this.
Well, you're underestimating, what he's every week there was someone there with Derrick Henry, almost.
Well, I'm getting to that. So it's like a little thing about one or two other players. And then the other 83% of this email every week is like, if Derrick Henry does this week, here's who else has done it. And son of a gun.
Yeah, well,
it's always only like Jim Brown, O.J. Simpson, Walter Payton.
It's not Titans. It's Hall of Famers.
And we read these things,
like, dang.
I love doing it. So maybe we get it on Thursday because I want to say that I read them because I always read them. We always just do a segment where I'm like, okay, we just got the email from Robbie Board, and let me do the feats of Derrick Henry for this week. And it's just astounding. Because it's always Derrick Henry and like only Hall of Famers or guys who are going into Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So Twitter, and I know a bunch of y'all aren't on it, and maybe some of you have jumped off that train recently due to Elon's Twitter management. But Twitter's just a place where, I don't know, there's just always numbers and stats and all these things floating around. And that's one of the things that I've liked about it. And so in looking at typically every day, I'll just do like a search on there, #Titans, just because I want to see everything Titans related. Anybody's tweeted out for the day, or is there they're linked to some player or something like that. So in one of the breaks, I'm sitting here and I did #Titans. Well, you and Jackson both saw the same tweet, but I think from somebody different. I saw it from Sports Encyclopedia, which I've never heard of till today. So this Feats of Derrick Henry Summer Edition. In the history of the NFL, the most 200-yard games by any players, O.J. Simpson, he has 6. And I know some of you just know O.J. for his, let's just say, legal issues. Yeah. O.J. as a football player, I'm old enough to remember.
And I am not.
Was one of the most unique individuals. He could run over you, he could run around you, and he could run away from you. He had sprinter speed. And I'm not saying Olympic level, but he had sprinter caliber speed. He was a big back for his time. He could run over you, around you, or away from you. He was a unique individual, and he was the first guy to get 2,000 yards in a season.
In a season that was only like 14
games.
Yeah, okay.
So O.J. did it in 14. You can look at he finished the season against the New York Jets, probably in Shea Stadium at the time in the snow, and he got the record on I think the Bills were really bad. They weren't always bad when he was there. I think they were bad that year. He has 6 200-yard games. When you're like, even if you don't know O.J. as a football player, O.J. Hall of Fame football player, like no question. Mm-hmm. After Jim Brown retired, a lot of people said this is the second best running back in NFL history. Some people thought he was better than Jim Brown. Yep.
Oh, wow.
He retired with, you can check my math, but I believe O.J. was 11,000 and change, which he was the career rushing leader when he retired. So, another guy who has 6 200-yard games, Adrian Peterson.
Oh, AP.
Now, we all saw AP. If you can hear the sound of my voice and you're old enough to watch or listen to, I guess you could watch this F&M.
Not the AP that was with the Titans.
No, not that version. Although that version stuck on like another, 111 yards or something in 3 games.
Player, but he wasn't the elite player that he was.
He has 6 200-yard games. Well, 6 200-yard games.
That is really hard to do.
He and OJ.
Get one.
Now, think about this. Every day for 2 hours of my day, and sometimes beforehand when we sit and chat with each other, I spend at least 2 days sitting across from a guy whose whole goal in life was to keep somebody from gaining 200 yards in a game, or 100 for that matter. Think about that. A guy gets 100 against you, you're probably like PO'd after the game, like sitting at dinner with your family thinking like,
sick.
Okay.
Yeah, we we lost that game, man. We couldn't even tackle that dude today.
This guy got 200 6 times, Adrian Peterson. I think we all feel like Adrian Peterson has a bust secure in Canton, Ohio. Adrian Peterson.
I think he's still trying to play, by the way, too.
Yeah, I think so.
Because he's trying to get the rushing record? No, what is he? He's trying to get some record, I think. That's why I'm like, well, what is this deal? Like, why is he still? I mean, man, you're only playing like 2 or 3 games with a team at the end who's just trying to sell some tickets or something. I think he's trying to get some form of a rushing record and something. I don't know if I don't think it's yardage. It could be, though. To pass Emmett. You guys can do the research there. Read. What is AP's rushing yardage compared to Emmett Smith's?
He has 14,900. I know Frank Gore has 16,000 yards exactly.
So he can't get that.
He can't get that.
What is he? Oh, no. That's what it was. He was trying to finish in the top 5.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Top 5 in rushing yards. Now that's coming back to me. Pretty sure that's it. Yeah.
All right. Now you've got me curious.
Yeah, you want to know. Curious minds want to know.
Oh, come on.
I think he's like 50 yards or it's some, small number. It could be 100. I don't know. But
He is fifth.
He is fifth
with
now.
14,918.
Okay.
And what will he get to get to fourth?
He would need about another 300 yards.
And the third?
He ain't hitting third. About 1,000.
Oh,
about
okay. So it's
1,100.
Yeah. So he's trying to solidify that fourth, I guess.
Lonzo says in the F&M Bank chat, OJ was a killer running back.
Stop saying
sorry,
that.
Thank you. And Jonathan Martin in the F&M Bank chat, ding, 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 we have a winner. The other guy who has 6 of these is Derrick Henry.
Oh.
Feats of Derrick Henry, summer edition. Derrick Henry has 6 of these such games. So in the history of the NFL, which is this year 102 now? 100? Is this 102 years, I think, of the NFL?
I don't know. Only been existing for 100.
19 was the 100. So 20, 101, 21, 102, 20.
So this is 03 going on 04. I mean, 104.
Yeah, 104.
Yes, 104.
So there's been 103 seasons of NFL football. And the 104th season, Superhuman down the street there has a chance to be the first guy to get 7 200-yard games in his career. And here's the thing. If you say go to Vegas and bet 100 of your dollars, I'd bet on him to do it. I'd bet on him to do it.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
I just spent a whole intro of a segment earlier saying I don't believe anything now until I see it, but I've seen him do this 6 times. So I saw him get 1,500 behind a skeleton crew last year, like traffic cones. What if he gets some real help and support? And heaven forbid, like what if some of these receivers work out and can take some of the pressure off of him,
And then I think that makes it a little easier for him.
Yeah. If there's some threat that somebody can take some attention away from the box and drag them out towards the sidelines and give Superhuman some more space to run in between, the hash marks, let's say.
Yeah, because none of them DBs want to tackle him. Especially when you get that locomotive moving. Ooh, they be like, choo-choo coming. Let me get out the way.
So, this is a dude who at one point got 200 and then 200 again and then 180 something like in a stretch at the end of the season.
I'm betting money he gets it too. Yep. I would put money. And it'd only be fitting that he did against the Texans. Texans are the Jaguars. Got to do it against one of those two.
I want him to
I'll
do
be
it.
disappointed if it's not against anybody else.
Okay, here's what I want to happen. And I'm going to put this in the universe right now. I want that rascal to do it in the you-know-what uniforms against the you-know-whos from Houston.
Throwback uniform. What's that date game? You know the date?
Oh, I'm about to get the date. So Derrick Henry last year had an 82, a 25, an 85, 114, 102, 128. He had a 200-yard game last year, 219.
Against who?
Houston.
Oh,
115, 53, 87, 38, 30. Now, he didn't get many carries. 121, 104, 126, and 109 on 30 carries to wrap up the season. It was a long year, and he took a lot of punishment. But he did have a 200-yard game last year against Houston. Like, him against Houston is like death and taxes. You can count on him. Now, they got a new coach, D'Amico Ryans, and I'm sure he's going to have, pictures of Derrick Henry hanging up around the locker room. Like, everybody – if he gets near, I want the water Gatorade.
Oh, no, they're hung up right now.
Already. Amen. So they play the Houston Texans at Houston Texans December 31st.
At the end of the year? Oh.
They play the
when they play
Houston Texans at home December 17th.
Oh.
It'll be cold here probably.
Yeah.
I don't want to tackle Derrick Henry when it's warm. They're going. I don't know nothing. Amy hasn't told me nothing. Nothing. I don't know nothing. But against the Texans at home, they come out in those uniforms against the Texans. It's cold. I don't want to tackle Derrick Henry when it's warm. I certainly don't want to tackle him when it's cold.
You know what I'll be selling to myself, though, if I'm on the other team? Hey, man, if I tackle Derrick Henry, I'll get warm. So I might as well just go up there and just hit him. If not, I'm going to get embarrassed on TV, man. I cannot have that happen. I can't. Watch this. I can't have my mama and my family talking bad about me like what happened on that play. That's the worst. Your mama, your aunts, at least in my family, like, what happened on that play? You got steamrolled. Dang.
Well,
is he that good?
We have.
What do you think? It happened.
We have steamrolled Thursday, that's for sure. But it is time for us to get out of here. Time for 3HL to take over. I'm putting my money on it. Derrick Henry.
Yep, I'm in.
He's getting it.
Yeah, regardless, it's gonna be against somebody, but it don't matter. It's gonna happen.
Then they're going to go and get a big gold jacket fitted to go over those arms and shoulders.
Oh, I think it should happen in London. Who they play in London?
Lamar.
Oh, yeah, that'd be perfect. Keep him on the
No,
sideline.
we can't export that record. It has to happen on American soil. Come on, man.
Oh, well, everybody going to be watching.
You can't watch us anymore because we're gone, though. Bye.
But in the meantime.
In between time. Peace.